If you're listening to this, odds are I'm already gone, and you're experiencing the same thing I was. All I have is one piece of advice for you. Do not open the door. It sounds cliche, but once you hear my story, you'll understand. It started with me heading to the bar with some friends. We were all having a good time, drinking and hollering at every pretty woman we saw. Eventually, we got too rowdy, and they kicked us out, leaving us to stumble our way home. I had to get home soon anyway. My cat doesn't feed himself after all. I still had a takeaway cup from the bar, which I was taking sips from. Looking back on it now, not getting a lid for it was the dumbest fucking thing I ever did. I was stumbling back home when all of a sudden I saw a figure at the end of the street. They were standing just outside of a streetlight so that I could not make out their appearance. My eyes struggled to focus on the mysterious figure. Suddenly, they walked into the light, revealing a well-dressed man. He wore a plain brown suit and tie, brown dress pants, and black dress shoes. Finally, being able to see him, I relaxed and continued to press on home. I noticed how the man also began to walk, so that we were heading towards each other. Of his shoes against the pavement was almost deafening, even from this distance. Each one of his footfalls made my head pound, making me stumble more and more. When we were within mere feet of each other, each step sent my world into chaos and misery. As we passed, I finally lost my footing and fell directly into him, my whiskey spilling all over his fine clothes. I hit the ground hard. I stared up into the dark sky, watching the stars twinkle like diamonds up above. Then, another view came into my vision. The man was staring down at me, a fiery glow in his eyes, and a look of pure malice on his face. As his eyes met mine, an icy chill coursed through my body. I could feel something awful emanating from him as his eyes stared deeper into mine. This man seemingly cursing me with all his might. Then I blinked. I was in my bed. The sun was shining through my window, and my clock read 9:30 a.m. I wiped the sleep from my eyes and looked around, confused. My cat, Beef, sat at the foot of my bed, grumpy that he had not been fed yet. And all I could think about was the man I had seen last night. I could still see, no, feel his eyes staring into mine. That chill that I had felt still resonated with me, and that awful energy radiating off of him seemed to linger in the air. Nevertheless, I had chores to do and a cat to feed. I got up and walked to the kitchen, opened the cabinet, and poured some food into Beef's bowl. That's when I heard it. A tap on the window behind me, just loud enough to be heard. I wheeled around, startling Beef. I expected to see the man there, still staring at me, but there was nothing. That was just the beginning. For the next few weeks, small things began to happen. Be it a tap on the window or a knock at my door. Eventually, just when I began to question my own sanity, The voices began, always speaking from behind a door I was near to. Whenever I went to open the door, some primal sense in me told me not to, so I had to resist the temptation. At first, they were speaking in unintelligible gibberish, but with each passing encounter, their words and voices began to form. They had the voices of everyone I loved: my parents, my grandparents, my brothers, my sister, my aunts and uncles, and so many more. They tormented me for weeks, screaming, begging, pleading for me to just open that damn door, to let them in. They all had a different reason for me to let them in. "I'm hurt!" my mother screamed. "There's someone chasing me!" my brother yelled in desperation. "The house is on fire!" cried my father. "It's so cold out," my sister hauntingly stated. Then, one day, a new voice joined the symphony of horror. It was my own voice. It joined in with the others, now demanding that I open the door, ordering me to just let them in. As I record this now, I can't take it anymore. They're at my bedroom door and I'm going to open it. I need to end this misery. "Hey, Noah, can you draw us?" My friend, Joey, practically begged me on his hands and knees, pulling his girlfriend close to him. Cindy nodded in agreement with her boyfriend's request. I raised an eyebrow, chuckling to myself. "You do realize you'll have to stand still for a while? I can only really draw still life stuff." They both shrugged it off, already sitting in a position that they could hold for a while. I grabbed my sketchbook and got to drawing. It didn't take long to sketch out their forms, followed by the details that would make each of them unique. The freckles across Cindy's mouth, muscles along Joey's arms, the way her hair sort of swirled like a tornado. As I leant back to take a peek at the finished product, I realized I had accidentally drawn Joey's hand on Cindy's shoulder. Or, at least I thought it was Joey's. They were not even remotely similar. Unlike Joey's broad and large hands, the fingers on Cindy's shoulder were wrinkled, devoid of any moisture. Long, rotting nails jutted out like bones from the tips of its fingers, digging into Cindy's hot pink blouse. I looked over at her. There was no hand to be there. Just as I went to erase the decrepit limb, Joey took the book out of my hand. Cindy looked delighted, clasping her hands together. However, as her eyes traced the drawing, she must have hovered over the rotting hand, because her face fell. She pointed at it, causing Joey's expression to drop with hers. After a moment, his face lit up with laughter. "Oh man, that actually freaked me out for a moment. You're such an artist." He squeezed her shoulder, smiling at me. "Thanks, Noah," Cindy thanked me, half-heartedly, not so psyched about the weird hand. As I tore the paper out of the sketchbook and handed it to them, I couldn't help but wonder why I drew that. I don't recall doing so. Not consciously, at least. In all likelihood, I did it because I saw someone hold something, and that image stuck with me. I wasn't sure why the hand looked so twisted, but I wasn't going to question the coincidence. It was just one of those weird moments. Nothing more. Still, I couldn't get that hand out of my head. On the bus back home from school, I pulled out my sketchbook and began doodling the girl sitting in front of me. I wasn't the type to do this, but I needed to see if what happened was just a one-time occurrence. The drawing started off fine. She was wearing a dark coat and was staring at the phone in her hand, brown hair draping over her face. That should have been all that was there. But my hand continued to move. I began drawing another figure, this one far more inhumane, with decomposing skin, gnarly bones protruding from underneath. Slowly its form became more apparent. Though humanoid, it was obviously anything but human. It was perched on the shoulders of the girl, head tilted with curiosity as it watched whatever the girl's phone was playing. Where eyes should have been were instead replaced by hollow sockets, flies entering and exiting its mouth, agape and forever held in an expression of shock, seemed to sag, the skin connecting the jaw and the skull teetering at the edge of ripping apart. Despite the fact I couldn't see it, I was able to draw the thing with extreme detail. Each pore, each blemish, every wrinkle, each hair. Everything about it was etched into the paper with perfect accuracy. Frantic, I flipped a page and drew the girl yet again, this time in far less detail. I realized that the constant scratching of lead on paper was disturbing the other passengers, but I couldn't stop. Once the silhouette of the girl was finished, my hands yet again moved on their own, muscle memory guiding each careful stroke. The creature was yet again seated on the girl's shoulder, only now it wasn't looking at the girl's phone. It was looking at me. One final time, I flipped the page and scribbled an incoherent mess that barely resembled the girl. The feeling of needing to continue the drawing ceased. The thing moved. In that instance, I hopped off at the next stop and dashed for my home, cradling the sketchbook to my chest. I frantically looked around, drawing the scenery in hopes that I'll be able to find that thing again. Each time I did, it would be there, either waiting for me with a curious tilted head or running along the roofs on all fours, still glaring right at me. Eventually, I reached my house. Once I spun around and locked the door behind me, I made a quick sketch of the door. To my horror, the urge to continue drawing once I finished continued, and the ghastly expression was printed behind the window. Somehow, despite the fact that it had no eyes, I knew that it was making eye contact. Scared beyond belief, I ran to my room, barricading it with my bed and dresser, and huddled in the corner on the opposite side of the door. I began filling the pages with drawing after drawing of the entrance. At first, there was nothing special in the first 30 or so pages, but then came those nails, those long, black talons that held the bottom of the door, trying to pry it open. It tried and tried, each drawing showing the thing's hands in different position. I thought it would give up. I'm on my third sketchbook now, and it still hasn't let up. I'm writing this now to give my sore hands a break. It's beginning to wear the door down, nail marks covering the outer frame. Splinters of wood are sticking out, and the paint itself has begun peeling away. Calling the police isn't an option, and the room doesn't have any windows. I can't leave. I don't know why I'm even bothering to post this. I guess it's some sort of last wish. I know this probably comes off as some sort of schizo rant, but it's not. There are things that don't live in our realm of existence. Maybe it was my fault for being so curious, putting my nose into places where it shouldn't go, but I couldn't help myself. If you ever find the need to draw something that you can't see or feel, ignore it. Keep your distance. Put your pencil down. Just for the love of God, don't let it know you can see it, because it can see you. This has been going on for as long as I can remember. Every night, after my parents are asleep, I hear it. A dark, twisted version of my own voice taunting me. My parents say they can't hear it. Over the years, I have cried, begged, and pleaded with them to believe me. On the nights I'm not completely frozen with fear, I go to their bedroom and beg them to come to my room and listen. The times they relent and come with me, the taunts turn to weeping. They still insist they can't hear anything. I have torn my room apart, looking for any evidence that something is or has been in there, but I find nothing. On nights where I've been particularly disturbed, my parents have made a show of checking my wardrobes and drawers for me, and nothing. I've been in therapy since I first started complaining of all this. Every therapist I've had has told my parents I either have an overactive imagination or I'm suffering from night terrors. Whichever they put it down to, they tell us that I will eventually outgrow it. I turned 16 yesterday, and I can see my parents are growing increasingly concerned. I know I wouldn't outgrow this. What is happening is real, but no one will listen. The reason I'm talking about it now is its presence is growing stronger. My earliest memories of it, the voice was very low and weak. It sounded muffled, almost like it was behind a closed door. Each time I'd start feeling comfortable enough to ignore it, the voice grew slightly louder and clearer. It tells me that I don't deserve what I have, that I owe them my life, and that it's unfair I get to live. 6 months ago was the first time I heard it scream, loud enough that it sounded like it was right in my face. The fear I felt at that moment was almost physical, like my body sank below the earth, and my brain was trying to climb its way back out to safety. It screamed at me that it was their turn. That was the last I heard of it that night, but it has only exacerbated since then. A week ago was the first time I saw it. I thought I was hallucinating at first due to the lack of sleep. I was getting ready for bed when I thought I saw something behind me in the mirror. I turned, but nothing was there. I got into bed, switched my lamp off, and was scrolling on my phone when I thought I could see a shadow above me. I put my torch on, and looking down at me was my own face, but it was not quite right. I tried to scream, but it got caught in my throat. The face looking back at me flashed a twisted smile and said,
"Wow, you can actually see me now."
I scrambled out of bed and sprinted to my parents' room, screaming through tears that there was someone in my room. My parents came into my room to check and said they couldn't see or hear anything, but it was still there. I was hysterical, pointing and screaming at it. They were telling me there was nothing there and trying to calm me down. This fake replica of myself was now standing in a corner, completely ignoring me and looking at my parents longingly and crying. I felt like my head was going to implode from both fear and frustration. How could they not see it? It was right in front of us. I slept on the floor of my parents' room that night. The next morning at breakfast, my parents said they were worried, as that was the worst they had seen me. I tried to plead with them again to believe me, but they insisted they couldn't see it. They said that my current therapist obviously wasn't working, as this was getting worse, not better. I stormed out and went to school early. Over the last week, my parents have been obsessively Googling and calling clinics to try and find a specialist that can help me with my condition. They've made me stay in my room each night as they're concerned about feeding the delusion. It's been a nightmare. I've been able to see it every night. It gets in my face and endlessly berates me.
You don't deserve this life. Give it to me. It's my turn.
All I could do was close my eyes and cry. Last night, however, was different. It was my birthday, and I spent the day as I usually do. Pancakes for breakfast, went to watch a movie, and in the evening, my grandparents came around for birthday cake. Once it had gotten late, I went up to my room and went through my usual nighttime routine. I switched the lights off and got into bed, scrolling on my phone like I always do. Not long after, it began again. Like clockwork, it started with singing.
Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us.
Its voice dripping with hate. I switched the lamp on, and there it was, standing there, staring at me. The first time in my life, I spoke to it. I asked it what it wanted, and it basically spat its words at me. It told me that it's been telling me what it wants all along. It told me that it's been with me since the beginning, and just because I tried to get rid of them doesn't mean they ever went away. They will always be a part of me. I asked what it was talking about. It said I was selfish. There was enough love for both of us, but I had to take it all for myself. I told it I'm just a kid. I've never hurt anyone. It scoffed at me and said I hurt them before I even took my first breath. I told it I had no idea what it's talking about, and it rushed towards me, screamed in my face. It screamed that it's not fair. I get to live, and they're stuck looking in at the life that they should have had. It said I don't deserve it. It's about time I surrendered control. I asked it what it meant, and it said sisters are supposed to share. My mom knocked on my bedroom door, telling me to turn off the light and go to sleep. When I turned back, it was gone. Sisters? I'm an only child, and this thing clearly isn't even human. What the hell is it talking about? Telling me I need to surrender control? Control of what? I have no idea what any of this means, and I am so exhausted. I'm running out of energy to even deal with all of this. I'm so scared, but I almost want it to show tonight, as I have so many questions.